Will was unpacking the last of his belongings in the bedroom Rick and Scott had given him. He opened one of the lower dresser drawers, expecting it to be empty, but something brightly colored was hidden in the back corner. He reached inside and pulled out an old pacifier. The plastic was scratched, and the nipple was covered with deep bite marks. Will rolled into the hallway with it in his hand. "I found this pacifier in one of the drawers," Will said. "It's bitten up. I was trying to put my stuff away." Rick's expression immediately changed. "Pass that to me before Scott sees it," Rick said quietly. "That belonged to his brother. Give it to me before he notices." Before Will could hand it over, Scott walked into the hallway. He stopped the moment he saw the pacifier. For several seconds, nobody said anything. "My brother was nonverbal," Scott finally said. His voice was low and unsteady. "He used that when he became overwhelmed." Will looked down at the pacifier, suddenly feeling guilty even though he had only found it. "I forgot it was still in there," Scott continued. "Sorry, Will, it's your room now, but give it to me, I'm not ready yet." Scott held out his hand. Will passed him the pacifier. Rick sighed. "Scott, it's been 9 years." Scott closed his hand around it. "Rick, not now, please." "When, Scott?" Scott's eyes filled with pain and anger. "I can't talk to you when you attack me like this." "I'm not attacking you." "It feels like you are." Will lowered his head. "Sorry." Rick immediately shook his head. "No, Will, you're our house guest. You didn't do anything wrong, you were putting your things away." Rick looked toward Scott and then back at the bedroom. "It's just that Frankie would have been 43 today. He had the mental development of a 7-month-old baby. I should have cleaned that room out years ago." Scott closed his eyes. "Rick, please." Rick's voice softened. "I should have checked every drawer before Will moved in." Will looked between them. "I can move to another room." Scott shook his head. "No, this is your room now." "But I don't want to upset you." "You didn't," Scott replied. "The pacifier did." Rick leaned against the wall. "I kept telling myself I was leaving the room untouched for Scott." Scott looked at him. "But really?" Rick lowered his eyes. "Really, I couldn't clean it either." Scott stared at the pacifier. "You're the one telling me it's been 9 years." Rick did not answer. Will glanced toward the bedroom. "What was his name?" "Frankie," Scott said. "Was he happy?" Scott's face softened. "Most of the time, he loved music, lights, and anything that made noise. He couldn't tell us what was wrong, so we had to learn his different sounds and movements." Scott rubbed his thumb across the faded plastic. "When he became overwhelmed, he would bite down on this. Sometimes he rocked or hit his head because everything around him was too much." Rick smiled faintly. He laughed every time Scott sneezed. Scott let out a shaky laugh. He thought it was the funniest thing in the world. Will smiled. "It sounds like he loved you." "I loved him too," Scott said. "I just wasn't ready to find this today." Rick placed a hand on Scott's shoulder. "I'm sorry I pushed you." "You always push because you think talking fixes everything. And you always hide because you think silence makes things disappear." Scott wiped his eyes. "It doesn't disappear." "No," Rick said, "it doesn't." Will glanced at the time on his phone. "Rick, real quick, can you change me before I have to go on a Zoom call? It's a 2-hour meeting and I don't want to have a problem halfway through." Rick nodded. "Of course, what time does it start?" "In about 20 minutes. That gives us enough time." Rick followed Will into the bedroom and closed the door for privacy. He opened the dresser drawer where Will's care supplies had been organized and gathered a clean brief, wipes, gloves, a disposable pad, barrier cream, and a plastic bag. "Do you want to transfer to the bed?" Rick asked. "Yeah, it'll be faster." Rick positioned Will's wheelchair beside the bed, secured the brakes, and helped him transfer safely onto the mattress. "You comfortable?" "Yeah." Rick placed the disposable pad beneath him and kept him covered as much as possible. "I'm going to turn you onto your side." "Okay." Rick placed one hand near Will's shoulder and the other near his hip. 1, 2, 3. He gently turned Will onto his side and supported him. Will looked toward the still-open dresser drawer. "Rick." "Yes." "Is Scott going to be okay?" Rick paused. "I don't know, today caught him off guard." I didn't mean to bring everything back. You didn't bring it back, Will, it was already here. Rick finished cleaning Will, checked his skin and noticed mild redness. You've got a little redness but nothing serious, I'm putting some barrier cream on. Okay. Rick positioned the clean brief, helped Will roll in the opposite direction and secured it comfortably. How does that feel? Good, not too tight. Rick helped him straighten his clothing and transfer back into his wheelchair. He adjusted Will's legs, checked his feet and placed the laptop on his tray. You have 12 minutes. That's enough. Rick started toward the door. Rick. He turned. After my meeting, maybe you and Scott should look through Frankie's box together. Rick frowned. He might not want to. Then don't force him, just sit with him. Rick nodded. You're smarter than people give you credit for. I know, now get out before my coworkers see you checking my diaper. Rick laughed softly. Door open or closed? Closed. Rick closed the door behind him. Will joined the Zoom call and remained in the meeting for 2 hours. When it finally ended, he closed his laptop and rolled into the hallway. A woman was standing in the living room with her arms crossed. Rick and Scott were facing her and the tension was obvious. The woman was Rebecca, Rick's mother and Scott's mother-in-law. Rebecca stared at Will. Rick, this man isn't Frankie, I thought you and Scott wanted to move on. Rick's face tightened. Mom, I know Will isn't Frankie, but you don't have any right to say that. Rebecca looked shocked. Excuse me. The group home you, Dad, and Frankie's social worker chose abused him, Rick said. Frankie couldn't speak, he couldn't tell us what they were doing. Scott lowered his eyes. You put a hidden camera in that place, Rick continued. You saw the abuse happening but you waited before doing anything, so don't come into our house and accuse me of replacing Frankie with Will because that isn't true. Rebecca's face went pale. We reported them. After how long, Rick demanded. How many times did Frankie come home with bruises before you accepted that something was wrong? Rick, Scott said quietly, not like this. Rebecca turned toward Scott. You're going to defend him after he speaks to me that way. Scott's expression hardened. Rebecca, you need to leave. What about all the other disabled people you two keep bringing into this house? Rebecca asked. You both need to focus on having a happy marriage. Instead, you keep letting people live here. It looks like you don't want to be alone with each other. Rick stepped forward. Mom, I like helping people. For a check, Rebecca replied. No, Rick said, because I like helping people. Rebecca pointed toward Will. You expect me to believe he doesn't pay you. Will rolled farther into the living room. I pay rent, he said, I have my own money. Rebecca looked at him. Will continued. I went through a messy divorce. These two men helped me recover when I didn't have anywhere stable to go. Rick isn't using me and I'm not using him. I only ask for help when I actually need something. Rebecca glanced at his wheelchair. Like changing you. Will's expression hardened. That is none of your business. Rick stepped between them. Do not talk about his private care. I'm trying to protect you. No, you're trying to control me, Rick replied. There's a difference. Rebecca looked toward Scott. You lost Frankie, and now you've filled his old bedroom with another disabled man. Scott slowly removed the old pacifier from his pocket. Rebecca froze. Where did you find that? Will found it in the dresser, Scott answered. Rebecca covered her mouth. I thought we threw all of those away. You thought wrong. Scott stared at the pacifier. Will finding this doesn't mean he replaced Frankie. It means none of us ever finished grieving him. Rebecca's eyes filled with tears. I lost a son too. Scott nodded. Yes, you did, but that doesn't give you permission to hurt everyone else. Rebecca looked at Will. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. You came into my home and told me I was being used as a replacement for a dead man, Will said. What did you think that would do? Rebecca lowered her eyes. I'm sorry. You're sorry they got angry, Will replied. I already spent years feeling like a burden in my marriage. My ex-wife made me feel like every time I needed help I owed her something. Rick and Scott helped me understand that needing assistance doesn't mean I'm using people. Scott stepped beside Will. And helping Will doesn't mean we're replacing Frankie. Rebecca stared at the old pacifier. Today would have been his birthday. We know, Scott said. Rebecca moved closer. Can I hold it? Scott pulled his hand back. No. I'm his mother. And I'm not ready, Scott said. You taught us to respect Frankie when he was overwhelmed. Respect me now. Rebecca nodded slowly. All right. Rick opened the front door. You need to go, Mom. Are you banning me from the house? I'm telling you to leave today. What happens after that depends on whether you can respect Scott, Will, and me. Rebecca stopped beside Will. I really am sorry. Will looked up at her. Then next time, speak to me like an adult. Don't talk about me like I'm medical equipment they brought home. You're right, Rebecca whispered. She walked outside and Rick closed the door. Will looked at him. I have to go. Rick frowned. Go where? To find out whether my fucking ex-wife's baby is mine or her lawyer's. The paternity appointment is today. Rick stared at him. You didn't mention that. Because I was trying not to think about it. Will looked toward Scott. Scott, can you take me? Rick needs to deal with his mom. I can't deal with Rebecca right now. Scott placed Frankie's pacifier carefully in his pocket and grabbed the van keys. Yeah, I'll take you. Rick looked concerned. My mother can wait. No, Will replied. She came here accusing you of replacing Frankie. Deal with that before it gets worse. Rick placed a hand on Will's shoulder. Whatever the result is, you're coming back here. I know. And if the baby is yours, we'll figure it out. Will swallowed. And if the baby isn't mine? You'll still have people here who care about you. Scott lowered the van ramp and secured Will's wheelchair inside. For the first few minutes of the drive, neither man spoke. Finally, Will said, Linda told me the baby was mine. When? Scott asked. Right after I filed for divorce, she said I couldn't leave because she was pregnant. And her lawyers. Matt was always around, at the house, at dinners, and in meetings that had nothing to do with the divorce. She said he was only helping her. But you think they were together? I know they were. I found messages. Did they mention the baby? One said, once the test is done, we'll know what our future looks like. Scott tightened his grip on the steering wheel. That could mean a lot. It means neither of them knew who the father was. Will wiped his eyes. I don't know what result I want. If the baby is mine, I'm connected to Linda for the rest of my life. If the baby isn't mine, she lied and used a child to keep me from leaving. Both results hurt, Scott said. When they arrived at the clinic, Linda stood near the entrance with Matt beside her. Matt had one hand resting on her lower back. Will stared at them. There's my wife and her fucking lawyer. Ex-wife, Scott corrected gently. Not officially yet. Linda noticed him. You're late. We'll check the time. I'm 6 minutes early. Matt stepped forward. We need to keep this civil. You might want to take your hand off my wife before you tell me to be civil. Matt quickly moved his hand. Linda looked toward Scott. Who is he? My friend. He's here because I asked him to be. This is private. So was my marriage, Will replied. That didn't stop Matt from getting involved. Will looked directly at Linda. Do you know who the father is? She did not answer. Look at me, do you know? Her eyes filled with tears. No. Will closed his eyes. Even though he had expected the answer, hearing it still hurt. Then let's do the test. Several days later, Will returned to court with his lawyer, Herson. Linda sat across from him with Matt beside her. The judge reviewed the DNA results. The laboratory has confirmed that Will is the biological father of the child. Will closed his eyes. Herson stood. Your Honor, my client experienced emotional and financial abuse during the marriage. Linda used his disability, his care needs, and his finances to control him. My client initially wishes to begin the legal process of relinquishing his parental rights. Linda stood. He has money, he doesn't want his child to have any of it. The judge struck the gavel. Sit down. Will looked at Linda. This isn't about money. I don't want a child to be used like a pawn. I'm not using our baby, Linda said. You used the pregnancy to stop me from leaving. You said the baby was definitely mine even though you knew Matt might be the father. Matt rose. That has nothing to do with the child's welfare. It has everything to do with it, Herson replied. Linda looked toward the judge. He's angry at me, so he's punishing his own child. No, Will said, I'm trying to stop the child from growing up between two people who hate and distrust each other. You don't even want to meet your baby. I don't know what I want, Will shouted. The courtroom became silent. Will lowered his voice. Everyone else had months to prepare. I had a DNA result in a courtroom. Herson looked at the judge. My client is overwhelmed. He is asking that all communication with Linda go through counsel while he considers his options. The judge nodded. That is reasonable. Linda looked at Will. So you're going to pretend Noah doesn't exist? It was the first time Will had heard the baby's name spoken clearly. Noah, he repeated quietly. Linda placed her hand on the carrier beside her. Be a father. You don't get to order me into being ready, Will replied. You ordered me around for our entire marriage. Matt leaned toward Linda. Let me handle this. Linda pulled away. No, Matt, you said the test might prove Noah was yours. Matt's face changed. Linda stopped talking. Will looked at him. So you knew he could have been yours. I was aware of a possibility. You were in my house before I moved out. I was providing legal advice. In my bedroom. The judge struck the gavel. Enough, allegations of professional misconduct will be handled separately. Herson rose again. Your Honor, how much will the child support obligation be? The judge checked the figures. $3,900 per month. Herson entered the numbers into a calculator. Over 18 years, that totals $842,400. My client wishes to fund the entire obligation now. Linda's head snapped toward Will. Matt stood. We object, future child support needs may change. Herson nodded. My client is willing to place the current calculated amount into a protected trust for Noah. Linda would not have unrestricted access. Linda glared at Will. You're trying to buy your way out of being a father. No, Will replied. I'm trying to stop you from using money as a reason to drag me back here. The judge looked at him. Mr. Wells, are you certain you want to transfer $842,400? Will tightened his grip on the armrests. If paying it means I never have to see this woman again in my life, then yes. You can't erase me, Linda said. I'm not trying to erase you, I'm trying to get away from you. You're abandoning your son because you hate me. I'm protecting myself because you abused me. Linda's voice rose. I changed your diapers, I cooked for you, I stayed home because you needed me. You keep saying that like caring for me gave you ownership of me. I sacrificed my life for you. No, you made me believe nobody else would help me. The judge struck the gavel again. That is enough. The judge reviewed Herson's proposal. If approved, the funds will be held by an independent trustee. Regular distributions will cover Noah's documented needs. Neither parent will have unrestricted access to the principal. That is acceptable, Herson said. Linda shook her head. He has millions, that money is nothing to him. There it is, Will said. You don't see me as Noah's father, you see me as a bank account. The money belongs to your son. The support belongs to him, everything I own does not. The judge eventually approved the protected trust, subject to verification of the funds. The monthly obligation will be suspended once the trust is funded, the judge explained. However, this does not terminate Mr. Wells's parental rights, and the court retains authority over extraordinary future expenses. Will looked at Herson. I thought paying everything would make it end. It ends the monthly financial fight, Herson whispered, not the parental issue. Will tried another approach. Matt can have the baby, he said. He's already with Linda, let him be Noah's father. The judge frowned. You cannot transfer a child to another person like property. An adoption would require a separate legal process, Linda's consent, an investigation, and a finding that it is in Noah's best interests. Will looked frustrated. So I paid 18 years of support, but you won't take away my rights. No, the judge said, money and parenthood are separate issues. When Will returned home, Rick was waiting. How was it? Will rubbed his forehead. I already paid all 18 years of child support, but the judge didn't take my rights away. I tried to give the baby to Matt, but the judge didn't approve it. Rick stared at him. You tried to give Noah to Matt. I thought Matt could adopt him, I could sign the papers and never deal with Linda again. Scott closed the front door. That isn't how it works. I know that now. Will rolled into the living room. I paid almost $1 million and I'm still connected to her. Rick sat down. What did Herson say? He said I could request no visitation for now and have all communication go through the lawyers. He also said I shouldn't make a permanent decision while I'm angry. That sounds like good advice, Rick said. We'll hit the armrest. Why does everyone keep stopping me? Because the baby and Linda aren't the same person, Rick replied. Will looked away. I know. Scott sat across from him. You don't have to decide 18 years tonight. I already paid for 18 years tonight. The trust handles money, Scott said. It doesn't decide whether you love Noah. I don't know if I love him. That's honest. What kind of father says that? One who only found out today. Will rubbed his face. I don't know how to be somebody's father. I can barely manage my own life. Needing help doesn't automatically make you a bad parent, Rick said. What happens when Noah cries and I can't pick him up? What happens when I need changing at the same time he does? Then you get help, Scott replied. From who? From people who care about you. We'll look between them. I'm not asking you to raise my baby. We didn't say that, Rick answered. We're saying you don't have to solve everything tonight. Will stared toward the hallway. The judge gave me 30 days to submit a parenting plan. Scott nodded. That is not the same as deciding the rest of Noah's life. Will remained silent. Finally, he said, I'm not promising to be his father, I'm not promising to visit, but I won't sign anything today. That's enough, Scott said. The next day, someone knocked loudly on the front door. Scott opened it and froze. Matt was walking toward his car. A baby carrier sat on the porch beside a diaper bag and two small suitcases. Matt, Scott shouted. Matt opened his car door. There's a note in the bag. Get back here. Matt drove away. The baby began crying. Scott turned toward the house. Well, your kid is here. Will rolled into the hallway and stopped. What do you mean he's here? Matt dropped him off and left. Rick searched the diaper bag and found a folded note. Will took it and read aloud. Will, Matt and I will be back in 2 weeks. I didn't have this child alone. It is time for you to take responsibility. Everything Noah needs should be in the bags. Linda. Will crushed the note in his hand. I knew she was going to do this shit. Everyone said, Will, you can't abandon your child. Will, you need to think about Noah. But she can leave for a 2-week trip and drop him off without telling us. Scott carried the crying baby inside. She can't do this without arranging it. Well, she just did. Rick searched the bags. There's no feeding schedule, no medical information, and no emergency contacts. She left him like luggage, Will said. Scott checked Noah. He's soaked. I don't know how to take care of a baby, Will said. You don't have to do everything alone, Rick replied. I didn't agree to this. We know. Rick called Herson and put the phone on speaker. Herson, we have a problem. Matt left Noah on our porch with bags and a note saying he and Linda will be back in 2 weeks. Herson became serious. Did Will agree to care for Noah? No. Was anyone contacted beforehand? No. Is Noah safe now? Will looked toward Scott, who was changing the baby. Yes, Scott has him. Photograph everything, Herson ordered. The carrier, bags, note, and location where Noah was left. Preserve any security footage. Call the police and report an unplanned custody transfer and possible child endangerment. Will stared at the phone. Are they going to take Noah? I can't promise what they will do. If you are willing to keep him temporarily, state that clearly. Will looked toward Noah. I don't want him put into foster care. Then tell the officers you're willing to keep him while we request an emergency order. Scott returned with Noah wrapped in a clean blanket. He's probably hungry. Rick found a prepared bottle. We don't know when this was made. Throw it away, Scott said. We'll make a fresh one. Herson instructed Will to send Linda a written message. Will typed. You left Noah at my home without warning or permission. Matt drove away before anyone agreed to receive him. Noah is safe, but this was not an agreed custody exchange. My lawyer and the police are being contacted. Linda replied immediately. You are his father, act like it. Will took a screenshot. A voicemail followed. Linda's voice filled the room. You wanted to pay money instead of being a father, so now you're going to learn. Matt and I already booked the trip and we're not turning around. Noah is safe with you. Stop being selfish. Herson told Will to save the message. Scott prepared a bottle and fed Noah. Will watched from several feet away. Noah's hand wrapped around Scott's finger. You can come closer, Scott said. I'm fine here. You're staring at him from across the room. He's my kid, I can stare. Will rolled closer. Noah looked toward the movement. He looked at me. He's looking at everything, Scott said. Does he know who I am? Not yet. Good. Will reached out and gently touched Noah's foot beneath the blanket. Noah kicked against his hand and Will quickly pulled away. The doorbell rang. The police are here, Rick said. The officer entered the living room and looked toward Noah. Will pointed toward the front porch. Officer, my crazy ex-wife dropped my kid in front of our door. She called nobody and asked nobody. Now she's on a fucking 2-week trip with her lawyer who she's also sleeping with. The officer opened a notebook. So this is your baby? Will sighed. Sadly, yes. Scott immediately looked at him. Will. What? I found out he was mine in court, paid 18 years of support and then got told I couldn't sign away my rights. Now Linda drops him here like a package. The officer glanced toward Noah. I understand you're upset, but try not to speak about the child that way. I'm not upset with him, I'm upset that his mother used him to punish me. Rick handed the officer Linda's note. The officer read it. Did anyone agree to watch Noah? No. Who physically left him? Matt, Scott replied, Linda's lawyer. Rick pointed toward the security camera. We have footage. Save the original recording, the officer said. Do not edit it. The officer examined the bags. Did Linda provide medical information, feeding instructions, or emergency contacts? No, Scott said. We don't know his pediatrician, his routine, or whether he has allergies. Is Noah showing any signs of illness or injury? No, Scott replied. He was wet and hungry. The officer looked at Will. Are you willing to care for him tonight? Will hesitated. I don't know how. That wasn't my question. Will looked at Noah. I'm not letting a stranger take him tonight, so yes, but I need help. The officer nodded toward Rick and Scott. Are they willing to assist? Yes, Rick said. Of course, Scott added. Because Noah was safe with his biological father, the officer said he would not remove him. However, the report would document that Matt left before confirming an adult had received the child. Will frowned. Can you arrest him? Not based on what I know right now. So they can just leave. Your lawyer can request an emergency hearing. Child Protective Services may also review what happened. ZPS. That does not automatically mean Noah will be taken. They may contact everyone involved. Noah began fussing. Scott lifted him against his shoulder and rubbed his back. A loud burp filled the room. Will blinked. That came out of him. He's small, not silent, Rick said. A moment later, Noah spit up on Scott's shirt. Scott closed his eyes. And there it is. Will stared at the stain. That is disgusting. Scott grabbed a cloth. You're one to talk, Rick changed you before your meeting. Don't tell the cop my business. The officer looked down at his notebook, trying not to laugh. Noah looked toward Will's voice. He keeps looking at me, Will said. He may recognize your voice, the officer replied. Will moved closer and offered one finger. Noah wrapped his hand around it. Will froze. Make him let go. Move your finger slowly, Scott said. Noah tightened his grip. He's stronger than he looks. Rick smiled. He isn't letting you escape. After the officer prepared to leave, he looked at Will. You told me Noah is sadly your baby. Will lowered his eyes. I shouldn't have said that. He may not understand the words today, but someday he may understand more than you expect. I'm not sad that he exists, Will said. I'm sad about how he got here. I'm sad Linda lied and that I looked at a baby and saw another way she could control me. That makes more sense. Will looked at Noah's hand. None of that is his fault. No, the officer said, it is. After the officer left, Will continued watching Noah. Put a pillow on my lap. Rick raised an eyebrow. You want to hold him? I'm not sure. Scott positioned a firm pillow across Will's legs. With Rick supporting Will's arm and Scott supporting Noah's head and body, they carefully placed the baby across Will's lap. Will became tense. His head. I have him, Scott said. His legs are moving. Bobbies do that. Noah opened his eyes and stared upward. Why is he looking at me like that? Will asked. Because right now you're his whole view, Rick replied. Will looked down. Hey Noah, your mom did some messed up shit today. Rick sighed. Maybe start with hello. We'll try it again. Hello Noah, I'm Will. You can say Dad, Scott suggested. No, not yet. That's okay. Will watched him. I don't know what I'm doing. I didn't ask for you to be dropped here. I'm angry and I'm probably going to say stupid things. Noah yawned. But I'm not letting anyone leave you on a porch again. Later that night, Will look toward Rick and Scott. After I get changed and into bed, can one of you put Noah next to me while I lie down? Rick and Scott exchanged a surprised glance. Yeah, Scott said softly, we can do that. Not all night, Will added. I know he isn't supposed to sleep in an adult bed just for a few minutes while I'm awake. We'll keep him in the bassinet for sleeping, Rick replied, but you can lie beside him while we supervise. Rick helped Will transfer to bed and gathered his nighttime supplies. Scott stood near the doorway holding Noah. Don't let him watch, Will said. Scott laughed. He can barely focus across the room. I don't care, turn him around. Scott turned Noah toward the hallway. Your privacy is protected. Rick completed Will's change calmly, helped him into a sleep shirt and positioned him comfortably against the pillows. All done. Will looked toward Scott. Bring him here. Scott and Rick set up the portable bassinet beside the bed. They made sure the mattress was flat and empty. Scott carefully placed Noah on his back beside Will for the supervised visit. Will turned his head. He's tiny. He's 7 months old, Rick said. Can I touch his face? Gently, Scott replied. Will brushed one finger across Noah's cheek. Noah turned toward the touch and opened his mouth. He's trying to eat my finger. He thinks everything could be food. No, I'm not food. The baby made a quiet sound. Will's expression changed. I said sadly when the officer asked if he was mine. You corrected yourself, Rick said. But I still said it. You were overwhelmed. That doesn't make it right. Will looked at Noah. I'm sorry, I'm not sorry you exist. I'm sorry your mother and I made everything around you complicated before you could understand any of it. Noah's hand moved across the sheet. Will placed one finger into his palm and Noah held it. I don't know whether I can be your dad, Will whispered. I can't pick you up by myself. Sometimes I need someone else to feed and change me. Noah kicked beneath his sleeper. But maybe we can both need help. Scott smiled. That sounds like a good place to start. Noah soon began fussing. What's wrong? Will asked. He may be tired, Scott said. Noah cried louder and Scott started to lift him. No, bring him back, Will said. Put him beside me. Scott lowered Noah carefully onto the bed again. Will began humming a quiet tune his own mother used to hum. Noah's cries slowly softened. Will continued until the baby's eyes closed. I calmed him down. You did, Rick said. After a few more minutes, Scott placed Noah safely on his back in the bassinet beside the bed. Move it closer, Will said. Rick shifted it until Will could see Noah clearly. Better. Yeah. The door remained open, and a small lamp cast a soft glow across the room. Will watch Noah sleep. I was afraid, he whispered. That's why I wanted to sign away my rights. Rick paused at the doorway. Will continued. I thought being Noah's father meant Linda would control the rest of my life. I didn't want to look at him and only see her. Scott stepped back into the room. But you don't hate him. No. Will reached toward the bassinet and placed one finger near Noah's hand. The baby's fingers closed around it. I'm not afraid anymore. Rick sat beside the bed. Will's eyes filled with tears. I still don't know how any of this will work. I still need help, but I can learn. He looked at Noah. I love you, Noah. His voice broke. I love you, son. Rick placed a hand on Will's shoulder. You don't have to prove anything tonight. I'm not trying to prove it, I mean it. Will looked toward the bassinet. I'm still going to fight Linda. She doesn't get to leave him outside and disappear for 2 weeks. You should fight that, Rick said. But I'm not fighting to get rid of Noah anymore. The next morning, Will called Herson while Noah rested nearby. Herson, if Linda ever does this again, you know what I want. What do you want? Full custody. What she did was abandonment. She left a 7-month-old baby outside without calling or waiting for anyone to answer. What if we weren't home? That is one of the strongest concerns, Herson replied. The security footage shows Matt leaving before anyone accepted Noah. He could have been outside for hours. I know. I want Noah living here. I want to make the medical and safety decisions. Linda can see him, but not alone until the judge knows why she thought this was acceptable. That would be a request for sole physical custody, possibly sole legal custody with supervised visitation. Ask for that if this happens again. Herson became quiet. I need an honest answer. Is this about punishing Linda or protecting Noah? Both maybe, Will admitted. I'm angry, but I also don't trust her. She left him outside so she could go away with Matt. In court, focus on Noah's safety. I will. At the emergency hearing, Herson faced the judge. Your Honor, my client was never notified that Noah was being dropped off. Linda's attorney left the child outside in 18-degree weather. Matt claims Noah was outside for less than a minute, but he left before my client's caregiver opened the door. The judge turned toward Matt. You left a 7-month-old child outside in 18-degree weather without handing him directly to an adult. I rang the doorbell. That was not my question. Matt looked toward Linda. Yes, Your Honor, but I believed someone was home. You did not confirm that. No. The judge looked toward Linda. Did Will agree to care for Noah for 2 weeks? He's Noah's father. I shouldn't need permission. Will leaned toward Herson. Can I speak? The judge nodded. I'm not saying Linda can never ask me to keep my son. I'm saying she has to ask. What if Rick and Scott had taken me somewhere? What if nobody was home? But they were home, Linda said. That was luck, you didn't know. Herson submitted the note, voicemail, messages, police report, and security footage. My client took immediate responsibility. He contacted law enforcement, preserved evidence, and provided safe care. However, he should never have been placed in that situation without warning. The judge looked at Will. What are you requesting? I want an order saying Linda can't do this again. If she leaves Noah outside or disappears without arranging care again, I want Herson to file for full custody. Linda turned toward him. So that's a threat? No, it's a boundary. The judge ordered that neither parent could leave Noah at a residence, daycare, or other location without personally transferring him to an approved adult. Unscheduled drop-offs were prohibited except during documented emergencies. All exchanges had to be arranged through counsel, and 48 hours notice was required for requested changes lasting more than one night. The judge also ordered Linda to provide Noah's medical records, pediatrician information, insurance information, and feeding schedule. Matt was prohibited from participating in future custody exchanges unless specifically approved. The judge looked at Linda and Matt. If another unsafe or unapproved drop-off occurs, the court will consider an emergency custody petition immediately. This is your warning. After the hearing, Matt hurried after Will, Herson, Rick, and Scott. Will, wait. Will stopped. What do you want? Matt looked around before speaking. Linda is unfit. Will stared at him. Why are you helping me? You're her lawyer. Not anymore, I quit. Matt held a folder against his chest. She's using Noah to control you. You need to fight her. Will's expression hardened. You helped her. I know. You dropped my son outside in 18-degree weather. I followed her instructions. You're a grown man and a lawyer. You knew it was wrong. I rang the doorbell and drove away before anyone answered. I thought someone was home. You hoped someone was home, Herson corrected. Matt nodded. You're right. Will looked at him. Why should I believe you now? You shouldn't, not without proof. Matt held the folder toward Herson. These are copies of her messages, voice recordings, travel receipts, and the instructions she gave me. Herson hesitated. You understand that you may be revealing confidential communications with a former client. I know. I also filed a notice withdrawing as her attorney. Will crossed his arms. You were sleeping with her while representing her. Yes. While she was still married to me. Yes. You knew Noah might be yours. Yes. And after the test showed he was mine, you helped her use him against me. Matt lowered his eyes. Yes. At least you're finally honest. Matt looked toward Noah's carrier. She doesn't see him as a baby right now, she sees him as leverage. Don't pretend you care more about Noah than she does, Will said. I'm not pretending I'm innocent. Then what are you doing? Trying to stop this before something worse happens. Matt played a saved recording. Linda's voice came through his phone. I don't care what the judge said. Noah is Will's child and Will take him whenever I decide. If he gets upset, record it. I want the court to see how unstable he is. Will stared at the phone. She said that after the hearing. 10 minutes ago. Herson told Matt to forward the file. Matt continued. She wanted me to drop Noah off again without warning. She planned to record Will yelling, panicking, or refusing to take him. She thought that would prove he was emotionally unstable. So all the talk about me abandoning Noah was a setup, Will said. She wanted you to fail. And you helped her. Yes. Will's voice rose. You don't get to sleep with my wife, destroy my marriage, leave my baby outside, and act like a hero because you finally got scared. I'm not a hero. No, you're not. I'm sorry. That doesn't fix it. I know. Matt revealed that Linda had also threatened to leave Noah at a police station and claim Will had abandoned him. Will looked toward the baby. He's not going back with her. Herson stepped closer. Will, we need an emergency order. Do not make decisions outside the existing court order. She wants to leave him somewhere to punish me. I understand. We'll file now. Will looked at Matt. I wanted to give this baby to you. I told the judge you could be his father because I was scared. I know. But you left him outside. I'm sorry. You are not Noah's father, Will said. You never were. Matt nodded. No. You're not deciding what happens next. I understand. Will turned toward Herson. File for emergency full custody. No unsupervised visits for Linda, and Matt stays away from Noah. Herson nodded. I'll request temporary sole physical custody and supervised contact while the investigation continues. Matt lowered his head. That's fair. Will look toward Scott. Put Noah in the van. I need to talk with Herson. Scott carried Noah toward the exit while Rick followed with the bags. Will faced his lawyer. Tell me the truth, can we win full custody? Herson closed the folder. Will, go home with your son, I've got this. That isn't an answer. It is the answer you need now. I need to know if Linda can come back and take him. The current order still recognizes both of you as parents. Until the judge grants emergency custody, we must follow it. If she shows up, don't fight, call me and call the police. I don't trust her. Neither do I. The recording, texts, porch footage, note, and police report give us a strong argument. Strong doesn't mean we win. No lawyer can promise a decision. Will rubbed his forehead. I hate the law. It lets people hurt you and then tells you to stay calm while someone decides whether it counts. Herson crouched beside him. Linda expected you to panic and reject Noah. Instead, you kept him safe. I said I didn't want him. You said that before you knew him. I called him sadly my baby. Then you fed him, held him, and kept him beside your bed. Will look down. I love him. That is what matters now. Herson told Will to go home, document Noah's care, arrange a pediatric appointment, and avoid direct contact with Linda. Your place is with your son, Herson said. I'll handle the filing. Will turned toward the exit, then stopped. Herson. Yes. Yesterday I thought paying 18 years of support meant I could disappear. I remembered. Today I don't care about the money. What do you care about? That my son knows somebody came back for him. Then go be that person. Outside, Scott had secured Noah's carrier in the van. He's ready, Scott said. Will moved onto the lift. I want to sit where he can see me. Scott adjusted the carrier so Will would have a clear view. As the van pulled away from the courthouse, Noah began making quiet sounds. Dada. Will froze. What? Noah looked toward him. Dada. Will's eyes widened. You guys heard that right. Rick looked through the mirror. I heard it. Scott smiled. He said Dada. Will leaned as close as the wheelchair restraints allowed. Noah, say it again. The baby waved his hands. Dad. Will covered his mouth. Oh my God. Noah laughed at Will's reaction. Dada. Will's eyes filled with tears. He knows I'm his dad. Scott touched Will's shoulder. He may just be learning the sound, but he said it while looking at you. No, he meant me, don't ruin this. Scott laughed. All right, he meant you. Noah said it again. Dada. Scott smiled. You see, you're already a good dad. I've only had him for one night. You protected him, fed him, and made sure he was safe. I needed help with all of it. Good parents ask for help, Rick said from the front. Will reached toward Noah. I wish I could pick him up right now. You can hold him when we get home, Scott replied. Will smiled. When we get home, Daddy's holding you. Scott raised an eyebrow. Daddy. He called me Dada first. Noah made another excited sound. Dada. Will laughed. See, he agrees. When they arrived home, Will positioned his phone on his wheelchair tray and called his parents, Kathleen and Ede, on FaceTime. Kathleen appeared first. Ede leaned into view beside her. Hi Mom, hi Dad. Kathleen smiled. Hi sweetheart. Ede studied Will's face. You look exhausted, are you okay? Rick passed behind Will. You good? Will gave him a nervous look. No, but I'm doing it. Kathleen frowned. Doing what? Will took a breath. Well, Linda kicked me out of my house, divorced me, and had an affair with her lawyer. Ede's expression hardened. She did what? And now I'm a dad, Will finished. Kathleen stared at him. You're a what? Scott stepped closer and brought Noah into view. Kathleen covered her mouth. Oh my God. Ede leaned toward the screen. Is that the baby? Will nodded. This is Noah. Kathleen began crying. I'm a grandma. Will smiled. Yes, Mom, you're a grandma. Kathleen turned toward Ede. We have a grandson. I can see him, Ede said, though his own voice was unsteady. How old is he? Kathleen asked. 7 months. How did we not know about him? I didn't know for certain until the paternity test. Linda said he was mine, but Matt could have been the father. Her lawyer, Kathleen asked. The same lawyer she was sleeping with. Ede muttered under his breath. Will explain the court hearings, the prepaid support trust, and his initial attempt to surrender his parental rights. Kathleen looked hurt. Will, I know I changed my mind. Scott placed Noah safely across the pillow on Will's lap, keeping one hand nearby for support. Will looked down at him. I love him. Kathleen started crying harder. Oh, Will. Noah reached toward the phone. Look at his little hand, Kathleen said. Ede smiled. He looks like you. He looks like a baby, Will replied. He has your eyes. You can barely see his eyes through the screen. I'm his grandmother, I can tell. Noah made a soft sound. Dada. Kathleen gasped. He called you Dada. Will looked proudly toward Scott. He's been saying it since we left court. Kathleen smiled, but her expression changed when Will explained that Linda and Matt had left Noah outside in 18-degree weather. They did what? She demanded. They didn't call or wait for someone to answer. Was he hurt? Ede asked. Number Scott found him almost immediately. Kathleen looked toward Scott. Thank you. Scott nodded. We were lucky. Herson is filing for emergency custody, Will explained. Is Noah staying with you? Ede asked. Yes. Do you have everything he needs? Some things Linda didn't pack enough. Kathleen stood so quickly that the camera shook. What formula does he use? What diaper size does he need? Clothes, a crib. Mom, slow down. I found out I have a grandson 5 minutes ago. I'm not slowing down. Will laughed. We have enough for tonight. When can we visit? Kathleen asked. Tomorrow. Good, Grandma's coming. Ed looked carefully at Will. Are you okay? Will glanced down at Noah. If you asked me 2 weeks ago, I would have told you hell no, but now I'm a little bit good. Ed nodded. What about your medical needs? Are you getting your care? Will looked toward Rick and Scott. They help me with my care and Noah's care. I don't know what I would do without them. Rick called from the kitchen. You'd forget to eat. And Noah would wear the same diaper for 6 hours, Scott added. I would not, Will said. You asked whether Bobby's only needed one diaper before bed. I was tired. Kathleen laughed. At least you asked. Will looked at Ed. Rick and Scott help me transfer, get changed, and get into bed. They also help position Noah so I can hold or feed him safely. Are you comfortable depending on them that much? Ed asked. I don't have a choice, but they don't make me feel bad about it. Linda acted like every time she helped me I owed her something. Rick and Scott don't. Ed lowered his eyes. I'm sorry we didn't know how bad it was. I didn't tell you, I was embarrassed. You never need to be embarrassed about needing care, Kathleen said. It wasn't just the care, she controlled my money, my help, and who I spoke to. She made me think nobody else would want to deal with me. She was wrong, Ed said. I know that now. Noah pushed away the bottle and began moving his head. Will looked worried. Why did he stop eating? Scott checked the bottle. He probably needs to burp. Will looked toward the phone. Dad, hold on, we have a baby situation. Ed smiled. I can see that. Scott lifted Noah safely against his shoulder. A few moments later, the baby burped loudly. Kathleen laughed. So did you. Will looked horrified. Mom, Noah does not need to know that. He's 7 months old. He still doesn't need to know. Ed became serious again. What happens when Rick and Scott need a break? Will became quiet. Rick answered. We're working on backup care. We can't be the only two people helping 24 hours a day. Will looked worried. You're not leaving, right? No, Rick replied, but everyone needs rest. He looked toward Kathleen. We can help. Kathleen nodded. We can do more than visit. Will stared at them. I don't want you moving your entire lives around because mine fell apart. Your life didn't fall apart, Kathleen said, it changed. That sounds nicer than what happened. It can still become something good. Will looked down at Noah. I think part of it already did. Ed smiled. That is the most hopeful thing I've heard you say in a long time. Will looked toward Rick and Scott. I couldn't do this without them. You don't have to, Rick replied. And neither does Noah, Scott added. After the FaceTime call ended, Will remained quiet for several minutes. Then he looked at Scott and Rick. Scott, Rick, if I never said thank you for helping me get my life back together, thank you. Rick immediately shook his head. Shut up, you needed help so we helped you. I'm serious, Will said. Linda kicked me out. I lost my house, my marriage, and almost everything I thought my life was supposed to be. You didn't lose everything, Scott replied. I know that now, but when I first came here I didn't. Rick folded his arms. You paid rent and followed the house rules most of the time. Most of the time. You yell from your room when your charger is 6 inches away. I can't always reach it. And that is why we bring it to you, Rick said. That's what helping means. Will looked down at his hands. Linda made helping feel like a debt. Every time she changed me, cooked for me, or drove me somewhere, she reminded me how much work I was. Scott's expression hardened. You were never work. I need a lot. So does Noah, Rick said. Nobody looks at him and says he owes us because we changed his diaper. That's different, he's a baby. The tasks are different, Rick replied. The respect should be the same. Will wiped his eyes. You gave me a room when I had nowhere to go. It was an available room. You helped me through the divorce. You had Herson for that. You took me to court. We had a van. You helped when Noah was dropped outside. We weren't going to leave him there, Scott said. Will laughed through his tears. You two have an answer for everything. Rick crouched beside the wheelchair. Because we don't want you treating friendship like a bill you have to repay. I still want you to know I'm grateful. Rick nodded. Fine, we know. Scott placed a hand on Will's shoulder. And we're grateful you trusted us enough to help. Why would you be grateful for that? Because trust matters, especially after what Linda did. Noah began fussing across the pillow on Will's lap. Will looked down. What's wrong, buddy? Rick checked the time. He might need another change. Will sighed. He gets changed more than I do. No, he doesn't, Scott replied. Will gave him a warning look. Do not expose me in front of my son. Rick laughed as he gathered Noah's supplies. Will watched Rick and Scott moving around the room. Seriously, he said, I don't know where Noah and I would be without you. Rick placed the changing mat on the couch. You're here, that's what matters. Scott carefully lifted Noah. And you are not doing this alone. Will nodded slowly. Thank you. Rick looked back at him. I already told you to shut up. Will smiled. Love you too. Rick paused before answering. Love you too, asshole. Scott shook his head. What a beautiful family moment. Will laughed as Noah kicked happily in Scott's arms. It was not the family Will had expected. It was a family shaped by loss, divorce, disability, fear, and a baby left unexpectedly on a porch. It was held together by court orders, late-night bottles, difficult conversations, caregiving, and people who chose to stay. Rick and Scott had not replaced Frankie with Will. Will had not replaced his old life with Noah. None of them could replace what had been lost. Instead, they were building something new. Will looked toward Noah. The baby turned toward his voice and smiled. Dada, Noah said. Will's eyes filled with tears again. Yeah, Noah, he replied, Dada's right here.